with that. Now showing the Agentic AI threat modeling and zero trust. So first of all, thanks Zenity for organizing this. It's certainly a very important event. I think I talked with Michael, we need to do this at least yearly, maybe even more often. So because of the speed of innovation, especially in agentic AI space. So a little bit about myself. I wrote a few books on the AI, and one book is upcoming, is Agentic AI, Series and Practice by Springer this August. Talking some of this, I'm trying to present today. The book is published by Springer, Cambridge University, Wiley, and Winston is co-author with me on one of the books about blockchain and Web3 and AI. So thank you as well. And I also volunteer at the Cloud Security Alliance with Nate and Brian, many others here. And also OWASP, Ali, Kyla. This is how Kyla actually invited me, so thank you as well. I also kind of leading a small consulting firm, and they are trying to transform from the digital transformation to now the AI transformation. And I kind of basically trying to help them in terms of roadmap, strategy, and I wrote some of our lesson to learn in the Chief AI Officer book. Kind of this also further feed me into some of the potential work that I have with customers. And also we work more concrete in terms of the red teaming and threat modeling that currently we're also working with the, we do have the CSA and OWASP like joint effort on the Agentic AI red teaming guide. So hopefully one day it will be published. With that, these 5 things I will talk about. Little bit about this. I think Ali has really introduced very well. I don't have to repeat. But there is some of the consensus in terms of what is the agentic AI. It must have some reasoning, planning, memory, and tool use capability. It must have the brain, which is LLM, right? This is some of the basic component of the agentic AI. Although there's no like official NIST standard definition, but people kind of center around this idea. There is some driving force. So I think you guys all know this driving force, but I'm more like leaning toward like each driving force behind the scene, it has some security implications. One is the new scaling law. Everyone knows that the old scaling law based on the data, on the model, and on the computational power, right? Number of GPUs. This hits the wall. Like you have diminished the return. Now the new kind of scaling law is post-training scaling law. OpenAI use test time compute, DeepSeek coming up with the reinforcement learning in the verifiable domain using the some of the GPR policy, kind of reward modeling. The key thing about that is it can potentially training the model to reason the chain of thought, and it has some of agentic knowledge in the model. And you can further fine-tune it so it can using the tool use. OpenAI and the majority of people use it. If you go to the Olama, you can pull the DeepSeek model with tool use as well, function calling. You can use it for agentic AI. But there's some security implications. I think it's already discussed today's. Nate, everyone, Michael discussed about that. It's potentially like if it hallucinate or you can inject it, it's using different set of tool instead of the tool you want it to use, right? So there is the like the prompt injection. It's really a bug and also feature, right? It's what the probabilistic model is doing. So you can never, I agree with everyone talking about today, you can never kind of defend against the prompt injection in your system. You have to manage it, kind of like manage malware. So to Michael's point, and SaaS is really hard in the old days. Now, there's potential to using the agent to generate the program logic on the fly using Python or whatever language and execute in the sandbox to some how to get some of SaaS logic into it. And this seems happening, and people trying to use it, right? So this is how, the older days of if you want to change any business logic, you have to outsourcing this to third party or maybe hire a internal team do it. It's a lot of work. It's potentially, I think Ali also mentioned that Sequoia, I think Agent AI is 3 times bigger than SaaS. It's possible, but there is security implication to this as well. Like if you generate the code, according to Beck's bench, there is a university from Zurich. They did some research about the model. Even the top model, Sonnet 3.7, generate over 30% of the insecure code. Some 40%, some 50%. So how can you trust this, right? So zero trust is today. I see every people talk today is talk about you cannot trust. It's zero trust. It's also what I will be elaborate more later. Code agent, every people use Windsurf, Cursor, generate code. It's called vibe coding, right? Vibe coding seems now it's a tongue, and vibe coding is only used for prototyping prototyping very fast. That's all. If you really want to put into production, you need to make sure it's secure. So I actually wrote a secure code guide, published in LinkedIn. You can, if you follow me, you can see it. Agentic AI framework, there's a lot. So many, Ali has mentioned that. None of this work, the Agentic AI framework has built-in security features. There's no authentication, authorization, monitoring, right? I actually wrote an open source tool and publish it. We can go over that to leverage, if you're using AutoGen or if you're using Clue AI, you can use my open source tool to plug in the security into it. And AI safety has been in the news mostly before 2025, right? But after 2025, people realized that we can actually using AI to building application, especially agentic AI. Then the shift is going to the security. Safety is still something it will do the harm, it will end humanity. It's still far away. We still need to make sure safety is. Some people still need to do research on this. But for our enterprise to implement applications, we need to focus on more. So that's why, in my book, in one of my book, I wrote it's generative AI security instead of generative AI safety. But I debated. Eventually, within the book, I said, okay, now actually safety is not as urgent as security, because if you really want to build, you need the security. So all this is really driving the AI, agentic AI, and also security, and also the zero trust. So now, how do we know if we're building the application, agentic AI application, how secure it is? We need to shift to left, right? We need to make sure that our application build is what kind of threat it could be. And then we kind of look at the traditional, there's lots of good threat modeling frameworks. like Strata, everyone knows Strata, right? Microsoft is a really good framework. Dread, Pasta, Octave, and LinkedIn. Those are really good framework for the legacy IT or AI applications. And they suit for different purpose. But they really cannot deal with the agentic AI applications because they don't have the determinism. They usually assume determinism in the computational environment, right? But agentic AI is non-deterministic, and also agentic AI has a different degree of autonomy. Like if agent does not have any autonomy, it's not an agent. You must give it a little bit of autonomy, kind of like a deep search, right? Or deep research. Deep research from OpenAI, from Gemini. I think Gemini coming up first, the deep research. Then OpenAI, then Perplexity. Now everyone support deep research. But deep research actually has an agent, right? It has a tool to do the web search. It has a tool to do the summarization. It has the agent, which will do the actual presentation. So there's a multiple agent system with certain level of degree of autonomy. And currently all this framework does not deal with this kind of autonomy. And also it is assumed transboundary. Like if you really do the traditional threat modeling, you have data flow diagram, you will have the trust boundary, say, okay, we will only deal with this inside and also maybe the connection to the outside component, which is outside of our trust boundary, right? That's not the way we deal with here. The agentic AI, in the future, actually, maybe 5 to 10 years, the majority of internet traffic will be agent, not human, right? That's the agent-to-agent communications from the Amazon to GCP, maybe back to Azure, and then go back to your on-prem agent. So that's very possible in order for this to really to implement the business workflows. And for this, there's no trust boundary. And you have to assume no trust, right? And then the agent-to-agent communication is really complex. And all this does not assume this. So this is some of the issues we deal with when we try to using these models. Now come up with the model. Thanks to Water for mentioning this. It's published at the Cloud Security Alliance. But we actually use it with our customer. It has some learning curve, steep learning curve, and gradually people really like it to use it. So I'm really pleased to talk a little bit about that. The idea of this is really to how do we think about the threat with agentic AI applications. And we need to look at the different layers. And then on different layers, we can kind of threat modeling with some agentic fact that I will talk more a little bit. And now you still can use traditional threat modeling tools. You are not limited, right? But this is give you some extra arsenal or weapon to kind of threat modeling. So here is the 7 layer. It's not ISO 7 layer. I don't want to try to mimic it, all right? This is the agentic AI kind of 7-layer model. Foundation model, it's basically the brain of the agentic AI, and people trying to use it and fine-tuning it. It's all good, and especially with DeepSeek, it's I think it's a gaming change. Llama is a gaming change for open source. DeepSeek is the gaming change for fine-tuning, for pre-training your model, right? And people actually try to use it. Even Perplexity said they will not train their own model. After DeepSeek, right, they said, we will train our own model. So it's possible. And when we advising our customer. Before, we always say, don't fine-tuning it, try to using RAG if possible, trying to improve your prompt if possible. Now, you can tune it. You can even put reasonable reasoning capabilities with a few hundred data set to fine-tune it. It was not too much like GPU usage. So it's possible, but there is implications on this, right? With this, like data poisoning, everyone talking about, right? All this. So, and then the data operation, meaning that you have the retrieval augmented generation, you have vector database, you can access API, you can go to the database. All this is you have some threat associated with it. We will have examples so it will make more clear. Agentic framework, if you're using framework, different framework has different threat profile. So it's very important that you choose wisely what framework you use and what kind of security you can put on top of it. Where do you deploy? Like you deploy in the on-prem or you deploy on AWS, also, right, or GCP, right? All this is has some of security implications as well. And then you have to evaluate like Landsmith, or you can use Arise, Phoenix, you can use Trace from OpenAI. There's many now, right? So, but how do you use it? Right, it may have the data drift, right? How do you monitoring the data in a model drift? And what if the agent can evade some of observation, right? It's possible, like using some of the tactic that it does something bad and evade it. So, and also the security is its own is a vertical layer. It's also a horizontal layer which monitor every layer, right? So, and then the agentic ecosystem means agent can discover other agent, and you can have a tool or agent capability registry. That's happening, right? People trying to put some of the agent, and there's no standard yet. There's no agent communication there's old agent communication standards such as FIPCA, or there's also from DAPA, there's agent communication protocol, more on the communication layer, but there's no currently agentic AI communication standard yet. So this is also a lot of work need to be done, right? So this table basically gives you the mapping between the old legacy model and also Maestro-like model. It's a comparison. Example, non-determinism, usually legacy threat model is assume a determinism, right? And Maestro is tackling this cascading fact. There's also cross-layer. The Maestro idea is you can have a cross-layer threat as well. Because time, I skip a little bit. It's 90 minutes talking as occasion, so I'm trying to squeeze this, right? Okay, this may be fun. Let's see. So who uses MCP, the Anthropic, right? It's really useful. It's really good. And now everyone is kind of supporting it. Even OpenAI is supporting the MCP. So the key thing about MCP is the model context protocol. It's provided the context for model. So it's simple, but it's trying to make it a kind of open standard. Everyone can use it. You can build your own MCP host, right? So one example is MCP host is cloud desktop app, right? So, and then it hosts it can talk to the model, right? And the user can talk, it will have the UI. Usually you don't have to, like you can have headless MCP host, but the majority of MCP host doesn't need a UI, right? And then the MCP client has a one-to-one relationship with MCP server, and it can communicate with what is called the MCP protocol, right? It has a message format. It can using local. It uses STDIO, right? If it's remote, it can using server-side event SSE over HTTP. So So this is good. And what is the security vulnerability? What could be the threat? Right? The model could be threat, right? And the communication could be, but it's hard, right? So why not we map to Maestro, right? So if we map to Maestro, so the foundation model, right? So Anthropic MCP can use external, right? It does not have to use in cloud. Like if you build your own MCP host, you can use Olama. I actually did. My MCP host can talk with my Olama model, which is running on my Mac Mini with a M4 chip, 64 GB unified RAM, so which is good, all right? And but what about security, right? What is the potential threat? And the data operation, of course, you can have this MCP server talk to retrieve augmented generation, whatever, Chroma, database, Pinecone, whatever database you want, right? And agentic framework, in this case, maybe we can talking about the framework is MCP itself. But currently, other agent framework also using MCP, like Launching is supporting Agent SDK, which previous named Swarm from OpenAI, is also supporting MCP now, right? So there's more and more framework to use it. And then what is the threat? So this is how give us a way to thinking about different potential threat it could be. And deploy MCP server. For now, like the MCP host, you can deploy usually locally, right? The cloud desktop, you download it, it's MCP host local, right? Cursor, Windsurf, it's MCP host as well, right? It can talk to your GitHub to fix the code for you, right? So that is also local. But this is limiting our imagination. In the future, you can have MCP really living on the cloud headless, and it do all the magic for you. Zapier, I don't how many people using Zapier, right? Yeah, Zapier has just one endpoint for its MCP host. Behind the scene, it has over 8,000 different tools you can configure. It called the action. And I also tried to configure you, send the Gmail, right? With one action in my spreadsheet, I just put something, it will, the email and the name, it will just send the email to this. Like you have to put the body, right? It does, it works, the automation works. But if you are not careful, it could potentially what threat it has. You have to kind of thinking this over before you actually go to production. If you just test it, send the email based on the your Google Sheet, that's fine. But that's all, right? It's the deployment infrastructure is important, and also the logging, right? Currently, like MCP itself, like out of box, it's just a communication protocol, so don't really. You have to plug in with different kind of tracing and instrumentation capabilities. And also you map the security. It's not native to the MCP, so you have to implement some of security yourself, right? There is some limited kind of security already built in. That's not sufficient. And ecosystem, this is more broad, like in the future, I think this is more forward thinking in terms of different agent. Like if you are talking about just a multiple agent system, like using Crew AI, AutoGen, that's all in process, in your own process. And that's a little bit easier to manage. What if in the future you have actually the multiple agent system in your environment talk to another multiple agent system in another environment, in another cloud, right? So what is security threat with that? And Yeah, so this is one possibility we can threat modeling it is to focus on the agentic factor. Actually, we're at the Cloud Security Alliance, Nate, myself, and other peoples, we are working on the like agentic traits, right? Different traits, you can use it to thinking about threat modeling as well, using Maestro. So that's upcoming. I'm not want to steal the thunder from you, but this is already you can thinking about this, right? You can have non-determinism, autonomy, non-trust boundary, which I'm talking about, dynamic identity and access control, right? And all this with that, it's one example, right? For MCP, right? For MCP, one example is yeah, the first one, maybe it will cause unexpected API calls. Second one, it's using the poison or outdated data, right? I will skip because not enough time. And we built a kind of, you need a manager threat, right? So why not build a tool? So I vibe code using V0. How many people using V0, right? So you can using V0 to vibe coding it. This is how it's coming up. It manages like once you find the threat, you can kind of depends on the different layer to say what kind of threat in each layer, right? And then you can try to migrate, kind of mitigate it to see the status. So you can manage it in your agent AI lifecycle, right? Using this threat modeling framework. So little quick, zero trust is important. I will be talking in ISA, actually focus on the zero agent thing, zero trust. So you cannot assume, like if you're multiple agent system, you cannot assume other agent is secure, right? No trust to models, no trust to vector database, no trust to the anything, right? You have to micro segment your agent system if possible. And you have to continuous monitoring it. And one thing is, there's one startup is just based on needs to know, trying to based on the identity to manage the agentic AI applications. I told them that's not enough. You cannot solely focus on the identity. You have to focus on the data. It has to data context centric. So you basically have to label the data. And give an example, I think everyone heard about this signal, right? DoD signal fiasco. And some people from Atlantic Journal, he's a chief editor, get added by our security advisor, and he see all the Slack signals information about the war plan, or they call it the action plan, right? And so signal is not built for agentic AI, right? It's assume your identity. Okay, you get invited, your identity is good, so you can see all the message. That's not good, right? So you have to build a kind of new signal system that based on these messages, you have to have a classification. Say, this is top secret. Then even you get invited, you cannot see, right? This is the kind of system which is based on context, and we are missing. We still are not here yet, right? And identity is, I think it's maybe Water or someone talking about the data or the identity is ephemeral. It's not persistent. Once your agent have this identity, it's task specific for a duration of 30 seconds. After that, it should not have this access anymore, right? So the ephemeral system, based on the policy, is something still missing. I think we need to build it for the agentic AI. Okay, the red teaming. We need the red teaming early and often. We do have this guide coming up as OWASP and CSA is building. And this is the zero trust framework I'm building. Like you can just, if you're using Clue AI, you can use an adapter, and then you can authenticate and you can access control it. So it has a policy enforcement there, and it's already like I have the demo already available. So you should be able to plug in if you're using Clue AI or AutoGen. You should be able to use it. And what you can apply today, and very fast, and you should threat model your agent and implement zero principle. And also there's SDK there, secure vibe coding. Yeah, we have the guide. And of course, you need a continuous monitoring. You can also, yeah, LinkedIn if you need. Yeah, I usually post about my ideas in LinkedIn. Cool, thank you. Just on time. Thanks.